distancing.
Socially distancing.
Right, welcome all. Welcome everybody in. Ben, you have got a fantastic guest for us. You bagged this one to tell us. Should we hand over to him?
Well, yeah, this is Rob Halden. He's an absolute genius joke writer. He's worked in many areas of joke writing. He's worked with Mock the Week and got to kill me if I miss out some things. Apprentice After Show thing with what's his name, Rod Gilbert.
Yeah, that's what I put on my CV. I put Apprentice After Show thing. That's what
Yeah.
That's how I write it.
You're fired. The Apprentice, you're fired.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. I think I'm fired as well now.
Yeah.
Good enough.
I love that show, by the way.
Well, Rob's written for it. So.
Rob, over to you. Come on, sell us the dream. Sell us the dream.
Tell you the dream.
Sell us the dream. Come on. What is it you do?
I used to be a stand-up, and I got about as far as I was willing to go, and as in the industry, and about as far as the industry was willing to let me go. And then I kind of discovered that I enjoyed writing jokes probably as much, if not more, than the traveling and the gigging and all that. And I always wrote for my contemporaries and my buddies, who then very nicely went on to end up having lovely careers as part of radio and TV and stuff. And thus, through that, I was able to write and develop material to appear on a few lovely TV shows, and got to commissioned to write a pilot for Comedy Central, and lots of fun things in the last few years.
Oh, that's going to be disappointing if that doesn't. Oh dear.
You just
Sorry, Rob. Are you able to just repeat that for us?
It was just your internet, Rob.
Did I cut out? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were all reacting.
No, you only cut out a few minutes, like the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So we heard about Comedy Central.
That's about it, really. Yeah, I wrote some stuff. I wrote a whole bunch of fun stuff from a bunch of people, and had lots of fun developing things for TV, and now I kind of work full time. Well, before the apocalypse began, I worked full time professionally writing jokes and working with comedians on their Edinburgh shows, on their touring shows, on their little bits for club nights. So lots of fun. Excellent.
Is there any shows that the audience would know or appreciate that you've written for?
You mean in terms of Edinburgh shows?
Just like TV shows, programs, the Comedy Central bits, any comedians that they may know.
Oh, well, I've written and developed material for Mock the Week, as Ben said, for Roast Battle on Comedy Central, and for The Apprentice, You're Fired. It's possible I've developed material for Britain's Got Talent. I'm going to have to watch it to see if the person I work with got through. And there was a pilot commissioned for Comedy Central that as yet has not aired. So
amazing.
Kind of amazing. The CV.
I'm really interested in that because there's different schools of thought on this. I'm going to try and ask the question totally impartially, because there are some stand-ups that get quite snooty about writers, about pure stand-up comedy, if you like, that, it should only be written by that person and blah, blah, blah. But there are also, I know of, some writers that are not necessarily directly writing material for whoever it may be, some of these big stand-ups, but are just helping them develop their bits and coming up with ideas and that kind of thing. So in what way, what do you specialise in, Rob, within that? Is it I can write you material, or is it I can help you get through the process and understand your voice?
So firstly, the people that are quite vocally snooty about it, they are all unprofessional comedians. Quite frankly, they're all open spots and they're way down. They're open micers. It's an opinion that you tend to have right at the start when you think you are Lord Byron of stand-up, striding across the country with your objective truth and your comedic spirit. Comedy, stand-up's a profession, and as things progress, then the need to be professional comes into it. It's very, very rare that I write full whacks of material and hand over to somebody. In the TV world, I've worked with, and I don't, as a matter of professional courtesy, I don't always name people. I've worked with comedians that are working, as in gigging, 3-4 nights a week and recording 3 TV shows in the space of 6 to 10 days. There is just not enough time to turn around original material on a specific topic on a specific deadline like that, which is why people like myself are needed to write and develop. When it comes to Edinburgh shows, it's helping. I always think of myself as a bit more like a midwife. You're helping to birth someone. If the show is about their personal story, which quite often Edinburgh shows often are, I've worked with a comedian on his experiences growing up as a mixed race person in London. I don't have that experience. I can't possibly write about that. But working together, we can bash out what are the great ideas, what are the funny subject areas, how can we add a couple more gags to make that lengthy setup funnier, and that's what you do. You're helping to birth. I work with somebody on their personal journey, finding their birth parents when they were in their 40s. That's not an experience I have, but you work on the format and on the story, and then you work on how can you present the story better and how can we get it funnier. So it's quite often a lot of punching up, tightening up. Me taking a step back and viewing the big picture can help a comedian because going from writing 20-minute club set, which is taking you a few years to get together, to sit down and writing an original 60 minutes of material that kind of maybe needs to be a story and it needs to have the right rises and falls. It's a very challenging experience. So yeah, I'm not exactly writing and handing stuff over, although I have done that on occasion. It's more, midwifing and things like that.
Do you still get that same thrill when you see your material being delivered? Because you mentioned that you had been a stand-up before. So, i.e., if you gave away one of your old jokes and someone approaches it and gets a bigger laugh, is that still a good hit for you? How does that make you feel?
Most of my enjoyment comes in the session.
Okay.
In the face-to-face workshops that I do, it is the most fun. It is the most fun. It is the best job. I honestly believe it's the best job in the entire world. I love it. There's nothing more enjoyable and entertaining. Because here's the thing I kind of realized about stand-up is that real comedians, we all see the world a little bit differently to the regular person, right? That's why we're able to kind of write jokes. We see the world like everyone else does, but part of our brain goes, what's up with that over there? And we see the comedic potential in it, right? And because our brains are like that, we get on in a very, very different way. And it is the kinship between comedians is almost immediate. And can we swear in this podcast?
Yeah.
I fucking love it. It is like sitting down. If you sit down in a pub and you're immediately able to get on with a complete stranger, that's a really cool feeling. And that's what it's like meeting stand-ups that I've perhaps never met before, whether they're men, women, whether they're from completely different background to me, whether, it doesn't matter. Comic is a comic. So I love that. And I love just kind of getting to the heart of something that's funny with them in the session. That's where all my enjoyment really comes from. I don't often then see them perform it that often, but I will admit, seeing the jokes fly on a TV show for the first couple of times, that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
I first met Rob in a train station opposite Shrewsbury. No, sorry, opposite Shrewsbury train station.
Yeah.
We ripped through a mint tea and got loads of material, and it's good.
Here's my first impression of Ben. Where are you based, Ben?
Manchester.
I could not work out why this guy wanted me to come and meet him in Shrewsbury. I was like, if you're leaving Manchester to come and meet me, why don't you come all the fucking way to where I am? I thought this he doesn't know why the fuck is he not? And then he very tactfully brought up the situation of brain injury, and I realised I was a massive shit.
Still charging double though.
So I didn't notice. It's fine. all comes out the DLA.
Yeah, that was, and then that's another thing of a great. I mean, writing comedy is a hell of a lot of fun, and I don't want to get too hippy dippy about it, but getting to spend a few hours seeing the world through someone else's eyes, guy, it's really fucking cool. Like, to hear Ben's experiences of brain injury is cool, and to hear, you know, I work with someone who went to a private school, right, and that's not an experience I would ever have had. And he explained to me there's a unique set of pressures drilled into people that go to a private school. Not saying it's harder or easier or anything than the rest of us, but that was a unique experience. The person who's been adopted and didn't meet their family until they were in their 40s was incredible. Working with people who are of a different sexuality to me or a different gender assignment to me, it's incredible to get to see life through someone else's eyes. I really think it's kind of broadened my perspective a lot. And then the best bit is honestly the best bit is not hearing about Ben's story about having a brain injury. It's hearing him write some fucking gags about it. That's just the best. Isn't that just because you're a comic, because you're a comedian, right? So a thing happens and you, aside from anything else, you're going, yeah, but what's funny about this?
Can I just say, Rob helped me write the best bit of material and a great addition to my set. We kind of co-wrote a bit called Bell and Her Brain Injury.
Oh yeah, the game you play. Because we worked out that Ben was and is to this day a bellend. And so not everything that he does can be explained by the brain injury.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Can I just ask visually, is everyone else, Rob, is Rob frozen for everyone else? Ben, Paddy, Dallin?
No,
I'm still there.
It's just mine then. Okay, I did before. Anyway, you're fine on the recording. Can I just ask you a question on that then? Because I'm really interested by this, Rob. And the reason I took a picture, it was me taking a screenshot then, is all three of us are just smiling like this is some kind of like session. Like, this is
well, you'll be getting invoices, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. And I'm well aware that a few weeks ago I got a bit of feedback from someone which is like, it's just a comedian's jerk circle. It's nothing to do with men's bloody mental health or anything like that. But this is just gold for me. I absolutely love the story of it. And part of that as well is there's something that resonates within me that I've spoken on this before a bit, but it makes me cringe a bit when people open mic and say they're a comedian. And I've said this before, and I feel like, am I a comedian or am I someone that just loves comedy? And I kind of feel like I've got some of the kind of analytical skills that maybe you're way more skilled in, I'm sure, because you've done it for a living and done it on TV. But I kind of feel a bit of a resonance with that. I can feel it because there's a bit of me that kind of goes, I love comedy. I fucking love listening to stand-ups. I love doing it, but I'm not entirely sure that I want to be a stand-up comic. I'm not entirely sure that that's what it is. And when you talk
how much do you love driving all day?
Well, that's part of it. And my job,
because being a stand-up comedian is sitting in a car for 6 to 10 hours a day. That's the job. And then if you love being on stage enough to warrant setting off at 2 so you don't hit the traffic getting into the place, kicking your heels, and then doing 20 minutes if you're at that stage, or 10, and then doing the long drive back, hitting the diversions on the motorway, which add another hour and a half to 2 hours onto your journey. Yeah. If your love of performing is that strong, then it's stand-ups for you. Or if you want to go and live in London, which, you know.
Yeah. I guess for me, I don't know what I was going to say there. I was going to say something. For me, it's not so much that, although that's a massive constraint because I've got 4 kids and all that lot. So it's just never in that regard anyway. But here's the rub for me. A comedian, people are only going to laugh at you if they like you. We've talked about this before from research that I've done and all that kind of thing. So when you're doing stand-up to some degree, I think you've got to pander to the audience a bit, haven't you? You can't just be unless your jokes are amazing, you can't just be all attitude, fuck you. If you're going to laugh, you're going to laugh. You've got to kind of pander to the audience a little bit. And there's a famous bit with Larry David where he just decided stand-up wasn't for him, but he knew he could write. And did you hear about that? There was one story with Larry David where he was doing stand-up, and he thought, I cannot fucking pander to audiences of people anymore. I hate it. And he walked out on stage once, looked at the audience and went, no, and walked off. And I think there's part of that for me is that I don't care about likable. Like I do to a degree because that's an easy thing to say. But I feel like there's a lot of very successful comics that are very good at being broad and being very likable on stage and then getting away with it and saying funny things. Whereas I kind of understand what you're saying. When you're with a group of comics, you can just crack, can't you? And just have a laugh and not care whether it's likable or not.
And Andy's jokes are a lot like this, Rob. He kind of talks about everything right way before he gets the actual punchline.
This is a session that I'll pay for with you, Rob.
I need longer than 2 hours.
Do you understand any of that at all?
Yeah, but I don't agree with you. So, and it's your podcast.
No.
Carry on.
Put the crowbar in.
It depends what you're. It really depends what you're talking about. So on TV, there is definitely a different consideration. I think because what you're not seeing a straight, unedited capture of a show. It's kind of there's editing involved and it's changed around. But on the circuit, nope. Funny is funny, and that's why the people that are making money and getting booked are funny. And likability, it's just a bit too convenient and easy to kind of. You can be the most nice guy in the world, but if you're not making them laugh, you're not getting anywhere. No one's booking you. You're not getting a laugh. You're done. Jerry Seinfeld talked about how fame will buy you an extra couple of minutes on stage. They like you, and it'll buy you an extra couple of seconds of grace, maybe a few minutes, right? But when you play a stadium, and let's say there's 40,000 people there, well, 20,000 wanted to see you, and 20,000 are the wife or the boyfriend or the sister, and they don't care. You've got to be funny, and you've got to land the jokes. I believe that comedy, at its best, is a real meritocracy, especially with the audiences. And you get duff audiences, and you get biased promoters. But yeah, I think funny's funny at the end of the day.
There's a famous podcast, but there's one of the Deadly Serious podcasts where they talk about the same thing. This subject, it's with Seinfeld and Ricky Gervais, and Ricky Gervais is saying it's all about empathy, and comedy's about empathy, and it's about this and that. And Seinfeld literally says that same thing. He says, no, it's not. There's no rules. There's no funny's funny, and that's it. I guess I'm a little bit on the Ricky Gervais side because
of those two people, one of them is a stand-up comedian, and the other one is a TV star who did stand up when he was famous.
Yeah, I understand.
And I think that's the two different worlds. Ricky Gervais has never been in a bear pit in his fucking career, has he?
Yeah,
he's never. Yeah. He did stand up once everyone knew and liked him, so he thinks it is about likability. Jerry Seinfeld has played horrific gigs and bear pits from when there's no likability doesn't come into it. You've got to make them laugh. So I think that's perhaps what is behind the two perspectives. And I'm not saying I'm completely right by any stretch of the imagination. And I am perhaps, the more I talk about it, and this will happen with me, I'll start on a subject going, I've got an opinion. And then halfway through talking about it, I go, I think I've changed my mind.
I'm the same, and I'm an argumentative prick, so we can go around all night.
Yeah, I think I was downplaying. I mean, likability does play a role and a factor. But there are plenty of character acts that, does Stuart Lee present a likable facade right from the get-go?
It does for me, yeah, because it's a tongue-in-cheeky kind of thing, isn't it? But yeah, but I understand where you're coming from basically about that. There's nothing better than the green room in a way, is there? There's nothing better than comics just having the crack, which is part of what we want to do on this podcast. It's great when people have got that kind of mind and they get together and just talk shit.
That's what I managed to do for a living. I managed to take that, the car journey and the green room is the best bit, and I managed to turn it into a living.
Yeah.
And then the universe fell apart, so it doesn't really matter anymore.
Yeah.
How have you been coping with Corona at the moment, Rob?
Well, luckily I'm not coping with it. Yeah, I suffer from. I've historically suffered. Not historically sounds like there's a period costume involved. I suffered from depression and anxiety for several years, many years, and I still struggle with anxiety. And at the very start, my anxiety was up and down, not full on, not unable to sleep. Though I'd liken it to the couple of times I've flown in an airplane. Like I had to say airplane there in case you thought I could fly some other way. And everything's kind of fine when you're distracted by reading a book or listening to a CD or talking to someone. And then every now and then my brain would scream at me, "We're in the fucking sky. There's nothing holding us up. You should be afraid of this." And that was kind of what the first few days were like. While I was watching TV or talking to someone or had a bit of work on, or cooking, kind of things were okay, but every now and then your brain would go, "Fine, the world's coming to an end. Holy shit! Everyone you care about is in trouble." But luckily, that's settled completely. That kind of that's really settled into the background. And if not, I've got lots of days of it being completely gone. And maybe that's just a case of I'm on some anti-anxiety medication. Maybe it was just waiting for that to kind of deal with the heightened level of anxiety. Yeah. Whether it was, okay. I took some forthright steps to make sure I'm occupying myself. I'm socializing virtually with friends. I shut out a lot of news reports and social media stories, which is very doom and gloom, and I really limited what I was doing. And then very superficially, I use an online company to deliver 2 crates of beer. And I sat and I watched Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I ate some crisps and I drank 2 cold tins of lager, and I felt, things are still pretty normal. and honestly, since then, I've leveled out massively.
Was your anxiety more linked to your job or the situation around the world?
I don't think I had any anxiety about getting the virus at the time. That's kind of changed.
Yeah.
At the time, I felt that that wasn't really my big concern, because I didn't have the underlying health concerns and I wasn't in the wrong age range. My concerns were, the shops are barren. Medication struggling to get through. How is my niece and my godson's going to get Calpol? What if they get it? What if my nan gets it? What if my dad gets it? What's going to happen with my income? What's going to happen to the industry? The 2 industries I work in, and what's going to happen to everyone's industry? And it was just everything. It was non-stop, man. The world was shaking around us, and the abnormality. Everyone's situation changed completely overnight, and there was our brains. I think my brain was screaming out for a bit of normality, and I didn't give it any until a few days in. And I think again when I did, and I sat down and stopped focusing, had a beer, watched something that I enjoy. I think normality my brain was rewarded and rewarded me, I think.
Absolutely. I think you've given the audience some really good advice there in terms of like facing their anxiety and going to a specialist when needs be, but also just kind of focusing on the things that make you happy. I switched off my phone Sunday evening all the way up to Monday morning, and I've not done that for a very long time, and it was beautiful just kind of not worrying about it for 8 hours. It was just a lovely thing. Felt like therapy on its own.
Yeah, you made me anxious because I messaged you at the start of that and then didn't get a reply for 9 hours.
Yeah, but you need to tell the audience what kind of picture messages you were sending, Ben. There's a reason why we call him Ben 10, ladies and gentlemen.
Rob, can I ask on that, the anxiety? Did you indicate there that you'd suffered from anxiety prior to Corona as well, though?
Yes, massively, yes. In fact, I had a big surge. So I'm an old hat with mental health problems. Old hand, sorry. I had a very high pressure job. and I don't think this caused my issues. I used to work in child protection for social services on the first response team. It's an awful lot of child protection cases, and working with the police and schools and doctors on immediate casework, and it was incredibly emotional and very stressful. But I think as something you learn in therapy, I always had a tendency towards anxiety and depression, and I got kind of tipped over the edge and had several years of not being able to work and struggling with medication and therapy and things, which went on for a while. And then I got very callous to it. I got very like, I know what I'm doing. But this last year, I was having all sorts of physical issues, heart palpitations that the doctors could find no reason for, and all this kind of stuff. And the doctors prescribed me some anti-anxiety medication, and I was like, "That's weird. Why would you do that?" And he said, "Well, all of your symptoms would suggest you're suffering from anxiety." And I was like, "Well, doc, if you're telling me to take the tablets, then I'll go along with it." And within 2 days, I went, "Oh, Jesus, that's so much better." Yeah, I was suffering from a lot of anxiety, and I just hadn't clicked, hadn't recognized it, and I thought that is so arrogant of me to think that I knew so much about it, just because I've been through a lot of it for a long time. So I somehow was missing all the warning signs and was not taking care of myself. And
sorry, Rob, I was going to ask, what were the telltale signs? What were the kind of symptoms that you were showing?
I was afraid of dying every day. And I had normalized it. I had normalized it, man. So I was, in the back of my mind, dark thoughts were gathering on a regular basis. So if I was walking down the street, one side of the street is empty, the other side of the street's got a pub on it. The back of my brain would say, you need to walk down the side of the street with the pub on it, because if you have a stroke or a heart attack right now, there'll be people there that can help you. And I was not, that just felt normal to me. That just felt like, yeah, that's how my brain works. And it was a constant chundering in the back of the brain. Not constant, sorry, but it was if it wasn't every day, it was every other day, that this was just going around, these dark thoughts about dying, about friends dying, about, it was, yeah. And I just, it didn't even occur to me to go and seek help for my mental health. I was going for the physical results of my mental health. Oh, I'm having heart palpitations. Oh, I'm struggling to sleep. Oh, I'm someone who's been through this before. So it is really bizarre that, we need to talk about it more, and we need, which is why this podcast is such a great idea, because the more you talk about it, the more, because everyone, like 1 in 3 has suffered like this. They reckon it's actually more closer to 1 in 2. Yeah. The more you talk about it, the more is the opportunity for a friend or a loved one to say, don't you think you should probably go and speak to your GP about this? Or do you not think some medication or some therapy would help here? Get some counselling sessions, and that's what we all need. We just need to listen to it like you would if you describe something and someone said, have you had a diabetes check recently? Because I think you might have. You'd take that seriously, wouldn't you? You'd go, oh gosh, my symptoms are like diabetes. Flipping heck, I need to go and get that sorted.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Totally agree. We've talked on that quite a bit about that. We fix our bodies so much as men, plasters and talking to someone or whatever, or doctors or operations. And even if we seek mental help, people go, what? You've seen what? You've seen a therapist or whatever? I had that the other week, and I was like, yes. What's not normal about that? It's weird. But when you talk about therapy, one of the questions that we had as a theme a few weeks ago was your greatest fear, and I guess you've already explained there. Is it that it was that the fear of death, the fear of dying? But where do you think that came from? Is that something that you talked about in therapy at all?
No, because I don't think I presented. I didn't. I had, and that's not my greatest fear is my loved ones dying. It's not me really. It's kind of being left alone. That's my greatest fear. It's other people passing away. I think anyway. But no, I never. It's only very recently I put my finger on that being present one other time in my life, and it wasn't so. When I had my big kind of long episode of depression and anxiety, my anxiety was all tied into. I don't like to use. It has similarities with kind of post-traumatic stress, and I have never done anything, like the police or the army or anything like that. But there was similarities with when I've been through the social work that I did, and so a lot of my anxiety was tied in with that, with horrible memories of very emotional and traumatizing cases. So at the time when I was receiving a lot of therapy, it didn't come up. It wasn't on my radar. I had experienced, however, the same ever-present fear of death, probably about 5 years before it. But I've only remembered that this year, if that makes sense. I've only tied what happened probably 20 years ago. No. 15 years ago to what happened this year is only just become apparent to me. So no, I've never got to the bottom of it, really.
I find it really interesting. I'll let the other guys chuck in with questions, but I can't leave that alone because I fed back on something on here that I had a bit of therapy, or started a bit of therapy about 5-6 weeks ago. I'm coming to the end of that now, the 3 sessions, and mine is more or less the same as yours. It's eerie. It really is. Mine was my greatest fear was being alone. And it wasn't being alone for a weekend or whatever. I love a fucking weekend alone with having 4 kids or whatever. But it was that fear that dying alone, a very similar fear to yourself. And when I spoke to my therapist originally, I just thought, no, it's not about that stuff. I just feel like a bit of, like you say, post-traumatic stress about the shit that I went through from not being with my kids and blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that actually all of it and loads of the stuff the bad decisions I've made in my life are all down to just low self-esteem, actually, when it comes down.
Yeah.
And the metaphor that I used at the start, and she's very good, my therapist, she said, how does it feel? And was asking where it feels in your body when you feel that fear. And I said, I don't know, but I'll tell you what the fear is. The fear is, and I see if this rings true with yourself, I don't know, it's just a metaphor, but when you were 4, 5, 6 years old and you were in the aisle in the supermarket and you realised your mum and dad had gone round the other side, you felt really alone. You felt like you couldn't cope. Even there was no rationality behind it, but you couldn't see them and you thought, I can't handle this. Do you remember that fear? Does everyone remember that fear? You've lost your mum and dad.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I said to her, that is the kind of fear that I felt. Panic attacky kind of similar, very similar kind of stuff. And she just, essentially, it's been all about self-esteem. And it's been about watching YouTube videos and all that kind of thing and understanding what self-esteem is and self-worth and everything. And I'll stop there. That's my personal side of it. But it sounds, in some ways, eerily similar to yourself.
My sister had health problems when we were both very young and was in hospital for a prolonged period of time. And I have this suspicion that leaving her, apparently I would bawl my eyes out every time we had to leave her behind in the hospital and go home without her. And I've not dealt with this in therapy, but I just have a feeling that really left an imprint on me. Yeah. The idea of separation, because I did have as a child a lot of separation anxiety just after that, even about being left at school dropped off every day by my parents. I was probably about 9 or 10, way too old to have it, as it were, not way too old, it doesn't matter, but I remember having a bout of real bad separation fear and separation anxiety when I was, about 10 years old. And I have a feeling that was kind of all tied into leaving my sister behind a few years ago. She was absolutely fine. I forgot to add that good bit to the story. There was no issue. She came out of hospital and all fine like that. But there was a, and it may only been a week, but as a child, it seemed to go on for a long time, and it was just brutal to not. She's older than me, so I'd always had her with me every day.
Yeah.
And then to have to leave her and go home without her at night was horrible. So I always wonder whether that left an impression. But
yeah. Well,
similar to the sorry, yeah.
My sister's quite a lot younger than me, and when I had the accident, obviously my family would come see me in the hospital. I was in a coma and stuff for a month, and she's still. I mean, she's 20 now, and well, 21 in a couple of weeks actually, and she's still scared of hospitals. She petrified of them. She won't go in there, which I guess is a sin, that kind of thing. She was only kind of 3 at the time, or 2 or 3. Went from to that.
These things leave impressions, though, don't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's my first memories are was just the smell of the hospital, the smell of someone that's very, very ill. There's a certain smell on the ward, and it's just awful, and that's one of my first memories. So in relation to my own mother, so yeah, and it does, and everything that led to that letter being frozen for years, where you just don't, you can't, your body doesn't know what to do. Your mind, you're the child.
Yeah.
And so you just freeze, and that stays with you for a long, long, long time. And then as you get older, all of a sudden these things come back. Like you say, times like this where you're sitting around, or not sitting around, but your life's changed, and there's a lot of nothingness, time to think, and all of a sudden, boom, fear, thoughts. You start to progress things, and you just don't know what to do with them. So I do know where you're coming from on that one.
I don't know if you guys have upped any coping mechanisms during all this, but the big things that I think are the silver bullet for me, and can be in general for anxiety, meditation apps.
Mm-hmm.
I found one of the therapy groups that I did all those years ago was all about coping mechanisms. It was group therapy, and it was all about what can you do. So there was one all about coping mechanisms. There was one entirely about meditation, and I found guided meditation to be very
You do every morning.
wonderful.
You do every morning.
I try to. I try to use the Headspace app. My problem is that I slack off when I'm feeling okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there.
But something like Headspace.
You whack off when you're feeling okay.
That's the one.
You tried to hit the morning. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, every morning, and then sometimes right before bed. But yeah, Headspace or Dare. Dare is very good. Dare's another app that is good. I think it's called Dare. It's good for panic. If you are suffering from panic attacks, if you know panic attacks kind of are a part of what you're going through for a little bit, that's very good for. Or even if just immediate rush of anxiety, Dare is a very good. I'm convinced it's called Dare, but I might be wrong. Let me just do a quick Google on that.
No, it's an Irish app. It's called Dare in English.
Rob, you need another session with him.
I know. You're representing me on the call now, mate. You got it. Yeah, it is called Dare. Dare Break Free from Anxiety is another great free app.
Right.
But also, I'm a very, very out of shape individual, quite unhealthy. But I've been using, as well as walking, I've been using. I used yoga YouTube videos that I do at home, and I managed to lose a good chunk of weight last year. From just bashing out them and eating better and walking. But right now, with what's going on and not getting that outside time as much, yoga videos that you can do in your living room. I mean, I say that as someone who doesn't have kids. It can be brilliant. It can make you feel fantastic for like 3 hours after. And I think keeping yourselves occupied, as cliched as it sounds, is really important, man. You'd tell the same thing to someone who was retiring for the first time, or someone who's suddenly living alone for the first time. You've got to put the work in to keep yourself occupied.
So, Rob, one thing I noted down before, you mentioned that you've lived with kind of long-term anxiety and depression. How's that affected your relationship? So, if you've got a partner or meeting girls or boys, whatever, how's that conversation been, talking about your anxieties and things like that?
Well, it's not really. long-term partner, it hasn't been a thing, but I remember, I certainly wasn't like dating when when I had this kind of like 2 odd years or more of of being really, really down with it. Oh, I mean, for a start, the medication, the antidepressants I was on, killed my libido, and just killed it stone cold dead. And I was not au fait with the healthcare system to the point that I am now. I didn't realize you could do this thing where you go back to the doctor and you say, "It's not really working for me, doc. If you got anything else, can you try a different thing, a different brand, a different, I just took it. I just had this mentality that I think comes from being a youngster with the doctors, which is they give you a medicine, you go away and you take it until it's over and you feel better. I didn't realize that with mental health and with antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, it's kind of a process. They're not able to look at you and go, this is definitely the one for you with the least side effects. You have to inform and feed back to them and say, listen, I don't feel as bad as I did, but I can't get an erection. And that's pretty key to my overall mental health.
Yeah, Doctor,
could we try? Is there a middle of the road we can try here?
It would be brilliant if you walked into the GPs like that and just yelled, "I can't get an erection."
I used to have some stand-up on this, which was about how I don't really think killing someone's penis is ever going to make them feel happier. You don't like the medicine you prescribed to me disabled a part of my body. How is that? If I come to you with a broken arm, you say, "Oh yeah, I can fix your broken arm, but I'm gonna have to shatter your ankle to do it." I mean, I don't really think the kind of society we're living in. So yeah, but subsequently, I've been, times have really changed. When I first had this bout of it, I can remember a friendly acquaintance saying, when we used to play darts in the same darts team, and he was joking, but his joke was, "Do you want me to take you outside and beat you up until, smack you around until you stop feeling so miserable about yourself?" It wasn't not everyone was like that. Some people were brilliant. Lots of people were brilliant. Friends and family were brilliant. But there was a lot of those attitudes. Whereas now I just kept talking about it ever since then. I just kept talking about it. I bring it up a fucking hell of a lot. And I don't want to say I've got laid by talking about it, but I think it displays a hell of a lot. I can't get an erection. I think it displays a hell of a lot of confidence to be open about it and to be bold about your mental health, and it's certainly played a part. I'm not sure it led to anyone dropping their knickers, but it's certainly in first conversations or first kind of meetings, I've been very forthright about it, and then that's led to some fun times.
So you say I can't get an erection. They say that sounds like a challenge.
yeah.
They're up for
There was that one. There is that one.
I'm gonna do what the doctor can't. Stand back, sunshine.
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned there, Rob, then about you talk quite openly about it. One of our questions that we like to ask guys is, who do you talk to and confide in? I mean, like really confide in when life gets shit. Who are those people?
My mum and dad. We're very close. And my best friend. It's always, this one is a weird one. My best friend is a woman, which sometimes causes people to go, and other times people are a bit more kind of open-minded and have close female friends, and it's not a big deal to them. I confide in her a hell of a lot, and she hates me saying this, but I don't know if I could have got through my big spell of depression without her, because we were just dickhead. I was in my 20s. We were just dickhead mates. We drank, we hung out, we watched we loved the same comedy. We lived, we drank in the same pub, and then we lived in the same building. We were just dickhead mates. And when this came, you know, whether you do or don't, everyone presents differently. You know, there are times when you cannot bring yourself to see another human being. You can't leave your room, or you don't want to see anybody. You don't want to talk to anybody. I certainly do anyway. I bristle at the idea of being in contact with other people. You know, I all of that. She spoke to me every single day, and she ate lunch with me every single day. Wow. Now, there's convenience in that because we did happen to live in the same building, right? And we were nearby, whereas family weren't. But I was abusing alcohol at the time as well, which did not lead me to be pleasant all the time. In fact, led me to be quite unpleasant to people around me. She took a brunt of that several times. I was mean. I could be thoughtless. All the stuff that can come in when you're fucking hating yourself and you're angry at yourself and the world and you're depressed and all of that. And she refused to stop being my friend for a good bunch of years. And I, you know, and we become dramatically close because of that, really. And I don't think I can ever repay that kind of care from someone that, again, at the time was just a dickhead. We were both dickhead mates. We've never been through anything together at all. You know, we've not been through, you know, school. We haven't been through school together. We were just drinking buddies that happened to. So yeah, she's someone that I always confide in. We speak every day, and yeah.
It's always an interesting question, that one, because we ask all, and listeners will get sick of me saying the same thing, but essentially, when we look at the depression stats, the reason why we're called Men Don't Talk is because it seems to be very, very rare within the statistics and the people that we've spoken to on this podcast that men talk to men about issues, which is interesting that there was a female friend there, actually. But you speak to your mum as well, and so you're close to your mum as well.
Yeah, I'm a dad. I speak to my dad a hell of a lot about it. Yeah. That is an interesting statistic. Well, it's an interesting observation, isn't it? And I can understand it, and it's because I don't want to get all, you know, but the patriarchy teaches us to not show weakness, especially not to other men. That is, I don't know if it's rule 1 of the patriarchy, but it's right up there with don't let women vote and stuff. It's a big one. It really is.
Absolutely.
Do not show weakness, and and especially if you're of a certain age, or beneath a certain age, rather. I grew up in playgrounds on the 80s, and then, you know, the 90s, and you couldn't show weakness then. It was unthinkable, you know. The biggest insults were to be called a girl, or worse, to be called gay, that kind of thing, which is all about femininity and weakness at that stage, which is not. It is not all about, obviously, homosexuality is not about femininity at all. But at the time in the playgrounds, that was what the root of it was. If you showed femininity, that's what you were called. You were called a girl. You were called gay, and it was really the worst thing. It was any chance of showing weakness. So I can really understand it. Yeah.
One thing you mentioned before, and it kind of brings us to the topic of today's show about drinking and booze. You mentioned one of your coping methods when you were younger was to kind of drink away your problems. I mean, a lot of people are drinking a lot more, increased at the moment because of, you know, the kind of self-isolation. What are your thoughts on alcohol and booze? And are you a pub man? What are your thoughts on everything like that?
I come from nobody in my immediate family does the pub or ever did the pub. Like, obviously, my folks did when they were younger, but I think it just evaporated my dad never went down the pub. He didn't come home from work and go to the pub. And I was always kind of fascinated by my friends' parents who did, and fascinated by the pub. And I got into, I think I was I worked in pubs for years, and I was part of pub culture for years. And because of that, I kind of am aware of when the clampdown on underage drinking came. I think my generation, I'm 37 now. I think my generation was the last generation where you were able to go to pubs without there being these huge fines if you were underage. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we were kind of conditioned then into how to behave in pubs, and pubs became a part of my life, big time. And I don't mean on the lash when I was younger, but then just as a social hub, and it became I found a real home in a couple of pubs in my hometown, a real community, so yeah, I misused and abused alcohol when I was struggling. At the time, I lived in a pub. This was maybe a mistake, right? It's kind of hard to say, because at the same time as I was doing that, and I didn't like who I was when I drank, because when I drank, it made me even paranoid, angry, depressed. But at the same time, I had, which if I'd moved home with my parents, for instance, they would have left the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I would have been alone until 6 o'clock at night, with no job at the time and things like that. But living where I did, I had a real community of friends available to me, like all day and all night, which was tremendous for me. It really, really was. I really give. I had a CPN who was. I had to part ways with her and ask for someone else in the end. She could not let go of this thing about drinking, and maybe she was right, but it's because I'd said once I had abused alcohol. She just could not leave that alone. When I said, I'm drinking a little bit, but I don't have the money to drink much. I can go many, many days without touching it or thinking about it. Could we move on and focus on another part of my life? She just kept hammering on about it, and she really wanted me to be able to give up for a bit. And I did, but I really give thanks, because I do enjoy it an awful lot. And I just mean the relaxation of a couple of pints. And I really give thanks that maybe my brain chemistry, I'm very lucky to have a kind of brain chemistry that wasn't prone to addiction, because I was able to come out the other side. I have a very positive relationship with alcohol now, and you know, I also firmly believe that the pub, the proper pub, not the Wetherspoons or not like bars, but the proper pub, kind of like the local pub, is dramatically key to men's mental health. I worked in pubs for about 8 years after my kind of mini breakdown, and they are full of unemployed men. They're full of widowed men. They're full of men who perhaps don't get on with their partner, don't have a loving home life, and they're full of older retired men. They're places that men can go to get company. And the statistics show that men who drink in moderation live longer than teetotal men. And I don't believe, and that is drinking moderation. It's not getting pissed all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's got that much to do with drinking, as much as I think it does have to do with the company, the camaraderie, the companionship. And I think we all know that alcohol is in moderation is kind of good at loosening the tongue. And being able to, like my local is full of neighbours. It's a real little community, and it does mean that you're able to go in there, and it could be banter and bullshit. It could be moaning about your day. It could be seeing if anyone's got a little bit of work going on. And I think they're really, really important. I've got quite a few single friends in their 30s and 40s who openly struggle with loneliness. They'll post about it on Facebook, talk about how they've been feeling. They have been left behind by social groups, which happens when people start to get married and have kids. And if you're not one of those people that with wife and kids, your kind of social group can be evaporated in a couple of years. As has happened to me. I don't have a long-term partner. I've never had a long-term partner, never had kids. And the pub has really been something that has always provided me with a way of socializing.
What are your fears in this lockdown for people without a pub to go to?
Loneliness. It's loneliness. It's the same as the fears for the older generations that have to stay in constantly and perhaps can't be visited. I know quite a lot of the regulars for my local will be struggling right now. I've seen one or two of them out in the street walking the dog, and I tried to have a bit of a conversation with them as I'm out for a walk, and they are really missing it. And whilst those of us who are a bit younger and a bit more tech savvy, we have set up virtual get-togethers, which is this with some pints. We have one on Friday night, and there was probably 5 or 6 of us from the local, all with different cans of beer or whatever, and we just played stupid quiz games and played a bit of jukebox music and did what we would have done down the pub.
Yeah.
And that was really good, but there will be a lot of unemployed people who perhaps don't have access to the internet in the same way that those of us with a bit more money do. There'll be a lot of widowed, retired people fearful of tech, don't know how to go about finding the person they always talk to in the pub who lives maybe 5 doors away on what is social media,
Yeah.
So I think loneliness is going to be a big struggle. It's a big struggle for anyone that lives alone right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I live alone. My girlfriend lives in Holland. She's working back there. Yeah, I mean, she tries to get me to be romantic, even though we're 500 miles away from each other. She said that the most romantic thing I've ever done for her is holding her fart in while we're in bed.
That is romantic, though.
That's chivalry.
It's the little things, isn't it?
Like his cock.
Oh no, it's a massive one. Actually.
How do you cope with it, Ben? Because you've lived alone for a while, really, have you? Like, off and on with the girlfriend, I know, but she's not there at the minute. You've lived alone, I know, for some stages in life. So is this a massive change for you?
Well, at the moment, I'm actually making the most of it. It's really good because I've started running after 17 years after my accident. I've been running, so I used to be very fit before the accident, so put a lot of sports and stuff. So I've actually got a massive buzz. I go out for a run like every day for my hour exercise or whatever. I go out running every day, so I get a massive buzz from it. So it keeps me happy, keeps me mentally happy, and and the rest of the time I'm doing podcasts with you lot, so it's all right.
True, yeah.
It's fun.
Can I ask you, Rob, about there? Because there's a couple of bits I wanted to dive into, if possible. But you mentioned about the kind of drunk that you are, and you mentioned quite a few negative, quite a bit of negative kind of language there as well. But you also mentioned that you've got a positive relationship with alcohol. So I guess there's a balance there, is there? Like, I guess my question first is, what kind of drunk are you? When you get really drunk, what kind of a drunk are you?
I think there was that kind of dark time. I was a very bad drunk, and I give real thanks to the universe or whatever it might be that is not the case anymore, and hasn't been for many years. I get quite loud, but it's laughing and talking and it's banter and it's bullshit. I don't tend to get drunk these days because I've got IBS and a gluten issue. So alcohol is a trigger for my IBS, which means I can't really drink a huge amount without being out of operation the next day, or at least can't plan to do anything the next day because you don't know where you need to be. It's generally 3 pints and done, if that. And sometimes I will, like probably once a year on my birthday or the German market around Christmas time, I've been known to sink 5, 6, 7 and have a lovely, lovely time. But back then it was a different story.
Glühwein as well.
Hey?
Bit of Glühwein in there.
Oh yeah. There's no gluten in Glühwein. You're fine.
No.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't, and it's not. The problem about talking about things like this is that it sounds that you're advocating one thing or the other. This will not be the case for lots of people, many people, all people. Sometimes if you are a negative drunk, you will maybe always be a negative drunk. For me, thankfully, it was just, I believe, a very negative time in my life. Drinking made it worse.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that people who should keep drinking. Maybe one day you'll get better. I don't know. I also do believe now, and I wish I had been a bit better at it at the time. It's a mistake to drink when you are suffering with low mood and depression.
Yeah.
And it's a mistake to drink when you're suffering with anxiety. Because it's such an easy thing to abuse, because we don't really view it as a drug, do we? So I don't know, man. It's kind of hard to. I'm very cautious of not sounding like I'm, advocating for.
No, I don't think it comes across as that. I was just wondering though, because they say that a drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts to some degree, and I think I agree with that from some experience. But have you learned then to like yourself a lot more? Because it sounds like there was a lot of anger and a lot of other things. Have you learned to like yourself more?
I focused for a long time after. Without getting too deep, I blame myself for not being able to help and save some of the kids that were my cases, and I still struggle with a bit of that. And that took me a long time to kind of forgive myself for. And after the fact, I was then focusing very much on trying to be happy and stay happy, and that was my focus. It wasn't a deeply privileged that friends kind of forgave the rent I owed and found me a job working for them, and I'm deeply privileged that my dad would have never let me. I could always gone and slept on a sofa in a spare room. So I was able to focus on me and being happy, rather than having to focus on paying. Not necessarily, I had to earn money and pay rent, but I didn't have to be obsessive about it. I didn't have to be really focused on it. And I felt I did focus on just eliminating stress from my life for several years. I started pulling pints. That gave me a focus. That gave me a daily thing to do. It gave me something to take pride in, to get better at, to make achievements in. I got my personal license. I mastered the nuance of convincing drunk people they didn't want another pint and they should go home. I got into. I had to physically stand up to some people and physically eject them. It was a tremendous part of putting myself back together. Being a barman for several years. But it was family. It was family. I had, before it all took place. I think this is hard to describe. I was ill pretty much the entire time I had this very stressful job, but I didn't realize it until the very end. I had emotionally distanced myself from my family, and I might have gone round for dinner once a week, but I didn't really share or talk or confide, or I wasn't present at all. And after the fact, I think I really started to understand the purpose and the value of family. I took it for granted before. I was in my mid-20s. I didn't have any sense of family, really. That's not true. I just took it for granted. There were lovely people who did lovely things for me, and I think my attitude was, of course they did. They're my family. But I think on the other side of it, found and felt the family is there to always support you. Whether it's that my friend who I live with, she became family, or whether it was my biological family who just constantly looked after me and supported me. And I think that's really what helped me kind of be happy with myself a bit more.
So just to change the direction a bit, what really gets on your tits
right now? Fucking cyclists on the fucking footpath
Yeah.
Social distancing
alone.
seems to be a foreign concept to these pricks. And they also seem to think there's some sort of invisible, like if I'm on the edge of the pavement because I'm distancing from other people on the pavement, you can't cycle past an inch from me. You bellend. That's what's doing it at the moment. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm trying on the get some my moves bit, and it's something we always talk about, isn't it? What's pissing me off. We have got another group where we leave audio messages as well. It's making people sick that are in really bad positions at the minute, but I'm actually feeling the positive at the minute. We've been going out for regular walks as a family, a bit more family time. Luckily, I've got the space where I can shut off and work and get some work done as well. But I'm finding actually like walking around and just going for a walk with people is great. Going for a walk with the family has been really good. Something we don't normally do too much. And actually, I'm finding that people around us, the cyclists are a pain in the ass. Totally agree.
Yeah.
But people are really friendly at the minute. I'm finding like neighbours that we don't normally speak to too much are waving when we do the clapping and all that kind of thing.
People are not friendly, mate. I promise.
Yeah. Well, I'm not feeling it too much at the minute, but everyone's feeling it that's experiencing anything that's going through this COVID stuff, and that must be horrendous. But I'm feeling a bit positive on it. I can't join on the gets in my moves. Is there anything pissing anyone else off?
Yeah, all over social media at the moment, there's people like famous comedians that they've got their voiceover and they just mime them saying it with an audience. It's like, what? Come with your own shit, for fuck's sake!
Hey, what was that? I must have missed that.
They'll have like Lee Evans playing in the background. And they'll mime over what he's saying something funny. It'll be some famous comedian.
Oh, on TikTok, this is.
Yeah, well, they do it on Instagram as well now. It's kind of come over. So, But
you have to understand that the general public have zero fucking concept of stand-up. They honestly, they view it like music. It's just karaoke to them, isn't it? It's just... I don't know. Do you remember the spate of tribute acts there used to be? The Lee Evans tribute acts and the Peter Kay tribute act. The general public do not have any sense that there's any...
tribute acts?
Mate, they were huge. They made tons of money.
Yeah.
Especially the Peter Kay one, because Peter Kay doesn't tour. So... If you look a bit like Peter Kay, you can clean up.
So all he did was tell Peter Kay jokes and look like him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrendous.
God.
Yeah.
It's got no soul.
Are there any comedians I look like just so I can get some money in?
You're unique, Ben. You know that. Fucking hell.
In a beautiful way, obviously.
Let's have a game of embarrassing, pissed up stories. Can anyone? I'll go with one first. I'm going to go with a mild one that I know Ben can beat. I think twice. I've got a friend, right? I'll tell you a little story. I've got a friend who still doesn't know to this day that he had a flat in Liverpool. It's quite a nice flat, right? And I stayed over there and slept on the sofa one night. And I woke up-ish pissed one night when we'd be having shots and everything. And I was pissing. And I was pissing on the sofa and onto his seagrass carpet, right? And I left early that night, in the morning, sorry. I left early and drove home, probably illegally. And he mentioned to me about a month later, said, we lost some of the deposit on the thing because someone left a stain on the carpet. Not knowing that it was me, absolutely hammered, pissing on his carpet. But yeah, what's the most embarrassing shit that we've done? Someone top that. Ben can top that.
No,
Go on.
No, I can't. No.
Can.
No, you're talking about the shit the bed at my girlfriend's parents' house, aren't you? That's invented for comedy. That's part of the bellend or brain injury routine. And that's bellend. So I had a lot of whiskey and we had a curry as well.
I still believe that you did it.
It wasn't pretty.
Come on, someone else jump in with an embarrassing pissed up story. What's the worst thing you've ever done?
I think Paddy's got a few. He's been quiet today, so I'm hoping to.
Come on, Paddy. He's involved.
No, what's he call it? I've got one, but it's no point even me telling you it because it's a visual one. It's a video of me, really, really drunk, just falling over. and it's just one of those that comes out every year. It's just, I'll send it to you later. It is quality. I'd had far too much to drink, and I was trying to lunge, and as you can imagine, it just went very badly. So,
as in full body lunge or like single leg lunge?
Yeah, that was the worst part. It was single leg lunge. And it was absolutely unnecessary in the middle of a crowded street. And but I went for it.
How were your boys afterwards? They all right?
They just couldn't stop laughing because that was just the start of it. That was
not
the part
those,
I remember.
Not those boys. Your boys.
Your
fellas. Your low-hanging buddies.
The little boys.
They were absolutely. I was very supple back then, so that wasn't a problem. So, but it was just the rest of it. It was people. My wife tells me about what I did, and I'm like, no, I've never done that in my life. And she's like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. You did everything you did. You went into the bar, went over to someone that was bored, started slapping them on the head. You fell asleep in a doorway and refused to get out when the staff were trying to kick you out. And I was like, no, I've never done that. And just all the things, I just got to this day, I've got no memory of it. And it's the only time I've ever been out of my mind drunk. The only time ever. Usually I can remember that one that you said. I was on a stag do and we ended up staying at Alport, my sister's flat, and so I was asleep on the carpet, and there was a lad asleep on the couch. So, and he was snoring like mad, and I was thinking, I can't go to sleep here. Next minute, he gets up, steps over me, and starts having a piss on the telly. And I'm like, right, okay. So what do you do about that? So, and it stunk. So anyway, he just carries on. Proper steps back over me, goes back onto the couch, falls asleep, and I'm like just staring at this amount of piss on the floor, and I'm like, shit. Anyway, so the next morning, our Paula gets in, walks past me, and before I get a chance to say anything, goes over to turn the telly on. So she stands right in it, and I'm like, and I went, it was me. Because I knew she'd have battered this lad. I mean, she'd have ragged him out and thrown him out. So like that. Anyway, so she really gave me down the banks. Really, like where I thought she was going to actually punch me. And she goes out. So I was like, all right. And he was going, oh mate, that's embarrassing. That I went, it was fucking you dickhead. I was like, it wasn't me, it was you. And he was like, oh, not again. So I went into the kitchen. I went, it was him. And she went, she said, I've never known you to do anything like that. Anyway, so she just sort of went along with it, but it was fortunately, I don't think I've ever done anything myself, not that I can remember anyway.
I've got a really good one that always comes up with my mates from. I was in college with a group of lads in Shrewsbury, actually. I do have reasons for being in Shrewsbury. And, I was in college in Shrewsbury, and my parents had an hospital street nearby. And when we were all in uni, it was like one of my mate's 19th birthday. We're all 18, 19 or whatever, and one of my mates was in Newcastle at uni. So we went up there, a few of us went up there, and had a massive night out in Newcastle, student night out, and end of the night, we're in a pizza kebab shop, pizza place, and I got talking to this girl, and we were all staying at my mate's house. It was his birthday, and he got home pissed about 2 hours before. So I got talking to this girl in the pizza shop, and this was Big Brother 1. This was when Big Brother 2 it was, because so I persuaded her to come back and watch Big Brother 2 live or whatever on the TV, and so she came back, and like she's like, we had a bit of fun on the floor, because see, I've got to explain.
Plain Twister.
Something like that, yeah.
Every week.
He's gone again. Robbie does this every episode.
Every week.
No, so the thing was, we're all
never-ending story.
Yeah. We're all staying.
What time when you put the meat in?
We're all staying in Dave's bed. David passed out asleep hours before, so I said to her, "We're gonna have to sleep in Dave's bed." So she got in next to Dave, and I was in the end. After about an hour, I needed a piss, so I got up to go for a piss. And then
Fucking hell.
Then on the second day,
Then she breathed in, and then she breathed out again.
So in the time, this all gets out of sight anyway. In the time I went for a piss, Dave's girlfriend came back. So she walks in, and Dave's in bed with this girl. He passed out. She rolls out. Who the fuck are you? And his girlfriend walked in, got absolutely mental. I walked in. She's going, fuck this, Dave. It's over. Come here. Dave's like, I've no idea what's going on. I just stood there and, well, yeah. Yeah. That story comes out every time we meet up, actually.
Did their relationship survive?
No.
Really? That was it?
Yeah.
He couldn't explain to her.
He was out of it.
Yeah,
what
but
about
I
you?
mean,
You're his mate.
It's funny, I can be asked. It would have been a good story if I'd have gone in there and said, no, you don't understand. She'd gone, oh, right, okay, fair enough, no worries. But,
Yeah, to be fair, I think if I'd have walked in and seen that, it'd have took a hell of amount of trust to believe that sort of story.
No,
Yeah.
Unless you just said Ben was involved, and they go, "Oh yeah." So I get it. Yeah, fine.
Dave was like, what were you doing in my bed next to me? I just fingered her. Don't worry. It's fine.
It's interesting that the difference between the generations and their use of alcohol. I hear that the younger generations now are not using the same amount of alcohol that we used to, which is, and that's probably a good thing in some ways, isn't it? Really, they're not getting pissed like we used to. And I find it interesting. My mate's a bit older, and he's got a 21-year-old, I think he is now. And we were fascinated one night drinking with him, and we were going, "Oh, is he going to the local place, Harley's, or whatever it was in Glossop? I bet he's in there now getting pissed like we used to, getting absolutely fucking bladdered. So he's got the confidence to go and talk to some girls." And he's like, no, it doesn't work like that anymore. They don't do that anymore. So they meet each other on Tinder. Yeah. He goes and shags them. And then he might go out for a drink with his mates from Wetherspoons for a couple of hours and go home at 10:30. It's not like us that we're all, I don't know, maybe it's just me. But
that's perfect. Is that not a better way of living?
Oh, I know it is. Yeah. It is. It's the worst way of meeting The worst way of meeting someone is in the worst state you could possibly be in, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's not a good way of meeting.
Kebab shop at 1 a.m. drunk out your head.
And that shagging is that. I mean, that is. It's good to be a little. It's good to be a bit inebriated and be free of inhibitions a little bit. But it's. I mean, it's. Yeah, I don't want to be judged on some of those performances. I mean, I don't want to be. Jesus, the last thing I want to do is have sex. I don't want to have sex sober, but yeah, some of them ones. Oh, early days. Fucking hell, yeah.
We used to get pissed enough so that you could dance, because once you dance, you were like, right, we're on the dance floor and we can go and pull them, because none of us were ever confident enough to just go up and talk to girls. So it was like, how many shots do we need to do to get pissed enough to dance? Because once you're dancing, you can see if a girl's rubbing against you up bum or whatever, and then it was just mad. It was just, why didn't we just talk to him? And it's got to be better. Just talking to him on Tinder or whatever, that's got to be a better way.
Well, as 53, it was what you call it. It was a lot better than our day. It was more fun. It was. But you go over, talk to someone, didn't work out, well, boom, you down. And at the end of the night, you still had a chance because there was just the slowie, so you still had a chance of meeting someone. So it was. It was great.
I thought the slowie was a reference to the people that are left at the end of the night. All the slowies are left.
Yeah.
I thought, Jesus, that's a bit much, Paddy.
I was one of them.
The old 10-2.
Yeah.
As you can see, the fierce predator lion is approaching the weakest one out of the herd. Hello, come here!
Hey, Dan.
I remember it. Oh, no, they're going to start coming out now, so I'm not going to start saying.
Go on, right, that's
no.
Come on, tell us that one. Come
on.
On. Men don't talk, Paddy.
I ended
Paddy don't talk.
No, I'm not going to possibly say it.
Tell us the end of the story. You're just about to say something, then you ended up what? Come on.
Right. I'll try and break it down into really short segments. Meat, home,
I'm
couch.
right out. I need to know how to do this.
Yeah. Go on,
Oh,
Pat. Say it again.
Meat,
What kind of meat?
person's home, couch, action, photograph above the fireplace of husband. Question. Found the location of the husband. Banged up, left the property very quickly.
But banged up's the safest, though.
Yeah.
He's not coming back anytime soon.
Well, that was it. He was. That's the whole point.
Oh,
It was one of those. I just went, wow, okay. It was just right. Because I just think even me model, even the fear came out. It was the model thing. I just thought, no matter what, I know it doesn't matter what's gone on, but I just felt really bad. It was one of those.
I once
on
found
many
out
levels, I couldn't stay.
I once found out the day after that there was another fella on the scene, yeah, he was somebody I sort of knew, and admit the problem is, to any casual observer, this was information that I should have known, because it wasn't like I knew the people, but the woman involved was so far. I didn't particularly like her, and I didn't like him, and they were very on the fringe of my group of mates, so I just did not pay attention to anything that had to do with them. There was no information about these people whatsoever, and the next day I found something out, that there was a fella on the scene, and I felt pretty crap, but then none of my friends would give me the benefit. No one believed that I didn't know going in, because they were like, but how do you not know that they've been together for... And I was like, yeah, I don't pay attention.
Going in.
Why would I pay attention to their lives? I barely even know who my friends are going out with, let alone someone I don't really care about.
It's one of that with the all slapping you on the back and going, well done, and you're denying it, and they're going, what are you doing that for? What are you denying that for? You shouldn't be denying it, mate.
Yeah.
Callie, what's your relationship with the booze? Are you a boozer or not?
No, I'm all right. I'm a happy drunk. I'm a kind of a handsy drunk, though.
I boxing or loving.
No, I like to tell people I love them a lot. So your face and ass may be grabbed.
I thought it's just because it's a Weinstein confession going on.
There's a whole hashtag made too about Dylan.
But yeah, minus the Weinstein nature. Generally a happy drunk, I'd say. But yeah, I've been known to get the occasional Essex anger out in me if confronted. But generally, 90% of the time, happy drunk.
Yeah, Rob, any? You said you used to booze a lot. Any embarrassing stories there? What's the worst thing you've ever done pissed up?
I don't know if it's the worst thing. It's not the worst thing I've ever done, but it's probably the most embarrassing. I once got attacked by a homeless person at Stoke-on-Trent train station and had to be rescued by the Red Jacket staff. Oh, wow. Because I was so drunk, I could not defend myself against a tramp.
More drunk than you.
Yeah, he threw an egg sandwich at my face.
Oh, you're joking.
And he kind of grabbed my hands, and I just could not coordinate myself whatsoever. And he was yelling and ranting in my face, and he was pushing me backwards. And I went back over those little standout pop-up kind of wobbly sign things that must have been information about what trains were cancelled in the coming week or whatever. I went arse over tit. He threw an egg sandwich at my face, and the red coaty people with the flags and whistles had to come to my rescue, because I was just absolutely I could not do anything to defend myself. I was like, I was completely out of it and floppy and lost, and they had to bundle me onto a train to speed me off to safety.
I bet he was wounded about throwing his sandwich at you.
It was my sandwich. I tried to give him half my sandwich when I got to the train station, and I don't know if I I'm not the kind of person, especially then. So I was a student at the time. I would never have said anything odd, even drunk. I was a very unassuming youngster. But I don't know. Maybe it might have been. It's entirely possible he was not a tramp, and I just offered an egg sandwich to a random person, and he was like, "I'm not a tramp. How dare you?" And then attacked me. I don't really know because I never saw. We don't keep in touch. I don't really know the sober version of the story and how it all played out.
I know what that would be, Rob. To be honest with you, if it was in Stoke-on-Trent, he probably didn't offer him an oat cake.
Well, it's a mistake. Yeah.
Got off an oat cake in Stoke-on-Trent. They taste like shit, but they love them down here.
Whoa! Listen.
From Stafford, you can't say that.
You can't say anything bad about Stoke-on-Trent, not in my presence.
Well, I'm not far. I live just down the road from it. So despite the accent, I live in there. Well, I don't want to say on the podcast, but it's beyond. Let's say it's beyond talk, as in going towards Cheshire way.
Oh, okay. I'm down in Stafford.
Right. Well, see, Stafford's okay, but oat cakes do taste like shit, mate.
That's completely wrong. That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's like saying bread tastes bad.
Oh no!
You fill them with cheese. You fill them with cheese and bacon. How can they taste bad?
Oh, no.
Because they're blended between old cagoules, tyres, and they just, honestly, God, they're just awful. I'd rather eat a marigold.
It's the Mexican tortilla of the Midlands. It's beautiful.
See, this is the reason why I got gonged off a gig, is because I made a really bad joke about an oat cake and I was off. It was basically the marigold one, but 3 cards. There you go, sunshine. Get off there. So that's okay.
Stoke's all right. Call you posh if you have matching shoes there, though, don't they?
Yeah. So when I went to the pub, did I tell you this before? And the fella was going, hey up, duck, here he is. The Scouse is in. And I'm like, right, okay. And he what's your hubcaps? And I said, hubcaps? I said, what are you going on about? It's the same joke all the time. I said, 17-inch rims now. I said, nobody has who has hubcaps? Nobody has hubcaps anymore. He did. Took me outside, showed me them. There you go.
Well, one of our standard questions, we begin to wrap up, but you shared some really good stuff there, like really, really good. Just one of the questions we often ask is, what would you say to a younger you? So you said when you were younger and stuff, you were going through various things, but what would your advice be to you?
Shit, man. That's the kind of question that you could literally spend your entire life trying to find the answer to. I think look after yourself more. Be kinder to yourself. That's kind of good general advice. As in, meditate every day. Get some physical exercise every day. Look after your mental health and your physical health, and be kinder to yourself and forgive yourself, I guess.
Good stuff. Right, is there anything that you'd want to promote at the moment for comics that are maybe looking for some writing sessions and all that kind of thing? How do we follow you?
So. If Rob Halden, Halden, robhalden.com, or come and grab me on Facebook. Facebook's the main way that I interact with people. I do Skype sessions where I can help you with your material, with your whatever project, writing projects, comedy projects you're working on. We can have a chat. We can get together over Skype. We can work on developing new material. I can pass on the secrets I learned. I can pass on my experiences and how to develop positive writing habits that I needed when I was up against tight deadlines on making week. We can do material. We can give your existing set an MOT, and we can look at like just getting your gags and punching them up and adding more jokes and all that kind of good stuff. And right now, if you're self-employed, come at me. My original prices are kind of flexible right now because I'm trying to make sure that I'm helping as many comedians as possible get writing and stay creative and stay laughing during all this.
Can I just point out, being someone that's worked with Rob, he's very good. Very, very good. And I've got some excellent material from him. I wish I could use it.
I'm trying to stay clear of reminding people of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I've had lots of people say, you know what? I don't know what the future holds, but it's the perfect time to be improving material or working on new stuff.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. And when we had our session, Ben, I did say to you, it's been like the second or third time that week that I've done those sessions. And for the 2 hours that we work together, or however long it is, you don't think about the outside world. Like tonight, we've not thought about the outside world much, and that's really good, really great to just focus on the things that matter, which is writing knob gags.
Yeah.
You can never have enough knob gabs.
Never.
Can't even say it.
Mouthful.
Right,
Morning.
superb. Any last questions, guys?
Yeah.
I think it's been really good. Really enjoyed it. I didn't even
Absolutely.
realise it'd been quiet, and that's me. That's not me. So
And
just
I feel like I've talked quite a lot tonight, so I
Well,
I
you're
don't
like,
know if that
"That's
was.
me too."
No, you're the
but
guest.
it
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
felt like a lot. It's because I talk for a living between comedy and I do commentary for British wrestling as well. So it's non-stop really with me. My mouth goes.
Don't you ever feel like jumping in the ring and, for want of a better phrase, and
Nope. Nope.
no.
No, thank you. That shit hurts.
Yeah, no, I love wrestling.
No, you shared some really good advice. I'm just looking back at the notes there. The Dare, yoga, meditation. That's great.
The Headspace app, the Dare meditation app, those are really great to do every day. And I really recommend finding Yoga for Beginners video on there's loads of free ones on YouTube. You can bash that out in the comfort of your own home before or after your one walk a day. And you can really get a sweat going and you can get yourself huffing and puffing and you just feel fantastic after it. Same with meditation. I feel after guided meditation, I feel fantastic after it. It really, really works for me. And I think they can be great stress relievers during all this. And you can do them on your own. You don't need to spend any money and you don't need to have much space or equipment or anything like that.
Great, fantastic. I'm definitely going to talk to you, Rob, and get a session in if we can, because I would love to, and I have tried before talking about mental health within the comedy, but it's quite a delicate thing. You can take the atmosphere out of the room very quickly, and I think I don't know, you'd be the expert, but I feel if your gags aren't really fantastic, then you lose the room because they're like, we've paid to come for a fucking laugh here, mate.
It's true of everything, though, isn't it? True of everything.
Yeah, that balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a
Harriet Dyer has got a fantastic show in Manchester called Barking Tales, which is comedians sharing mental health stories. They do that each and every month. I don't know the exact dates, but check out Harriet Dyer or check out Barking Tales on Facebook if you're in the Manchester area. They're really, really great shows, really great stories that are shared. They're often really, really funny, but there's no demand to be funny. That's a great place to go in there, get some stories, share some stories off your chest, or hear some fun stuff. And they've been nominated for loads of brilliant awards for Small Club of the Year and stuff.
Right, great, fantastic.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rob. That was brilliant. Fantastic.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been great.
Cheers, Rob.
We'll speak again, Rob. Come on again. That was great.
Brilliant.
Love to. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.